Our next speaker is Ruth Hall. She's a passionate activist for animal rights, peace, environmental awareness, and social justice issues. Ruth has been a vegan for more than 40 years. In her presentation, Ruth will share some visions of a brighter future with us, aspects which are also addressed in her novel Holy Cow. Please welcome Ruth Hall.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm really thrilled. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm so thrilled to be here. It's an enormous privilege to be part of this event and to be just in this ground of reclaimed, resacralized turf that used to be a slaughterhouse, you know, and it's just, to me, it's a wonderful metaphor for the way we as a race of beings, of awakening beings, and in coming into enlightenment beings, are going to reclaim the planet for all the animals, on behalf of all the animals. So, my name is Ruth, and I'm a vegan-topian. Do we have any other vegan-topians here? Nobody from VeganTopia? Yes, sister. Actually, if you're actively vegan, you are, in fact, citizens of VeganTopia. Did you not realize that? Well, because this flesh suit that we appear to be in this momentary third-dimensional space, is just a vehicle for us coming in and fulfilling our soul's purpose, in my understanding. And I feel that I have been permitted to go to the apparent future and to experience what it is like when we are through and out the other side of the dominator culture that has sadly predominated here for too long. And I feel like I'm here to share a bit of that. I've written a novel called Holy Cow, because I thought that there were no novels out there that had powerful vegan messages. So I thought, well, I'd better write one. So it also happens to be my story, and it's kind of pretty personal and intimate and stuff. But basically, it's the story of a young woman's university life, her relationships, and the way she turns her wounds and her damaged childhood into empowered activism and, in actual fact, wonderment. So maybe I could start by just reading a couple of bits of where I go into VeganTopia, the principle of it, and how my heroine, who's called Daisy, how she comes into realization of that. But first, I wanted to say, yes, so we are actually all citizens of VeganTopia purely by dint of living the lifestyle and being as harmless as possible and giving our intention and our purpose and our power to bringing through the compassionate change that is so desperately needed on this terribly suffering planet. So I want to thank everybody here who's honorary members and citizens of VeganTopia, and to just reflect maybe for a minute that your body, when you purified it and you've got rid of all the sins of the carnism that we were afflicted with, which most of us were afflicted with, I know I was. I've been vegan now for well over 40 years, but I still feel the scar massively. And the one thing that I am jealous of my daughter is she has never eaten dead animals. So, thank you. She's now 27, and, as we all know, she's bright, she's beautiful, she's intelligent, she's all the good stuff, yeah. Surely by now it's pretty obvious that you don't have to suffer yourself in order to eat this way. So here we are. Our little sovereign territory is our body, first of all. Then the land we stand on, the ground we stand on, we can say, I'm planting the flag of Vegantopia here, right? This is sovereign territory, right? This here, this space, I'm occupying this space. I am claiming this piece of land that I stand on. Yeah? And we can, in our homes, I don't allow anybody to bring death products into my house. No meat, no eggs, no dairy, no death products into my house. And I expect people to respect that. That's my sphere where I have influence. So that's an enlarged space of Vegantopia, right? And you also, I'm sure you do the same thing. And what's even more exciting is when a group of us like this get together, it's like this whole space here, yeah, this whole space is Vegantopia. And then we're all going to go out into the world, back to wherever or on to wherever, and we're carrying that. It's like we have a kind of insignia, you know, and we can, when we speak, it's like a mantra of Vegantopia we're sharing with the world. So this excites me greatly, and it gives a lot of power to us when we think small and we think, oh, but what can I do? You know, the world is so awful and I'm just me. You know, and we're waiting for some luminary and some visionary and we're waiting for to be rescued. And it's like, no, it's down to you and me and how we live our lives and how we share that and how open our hearts are and how willing we are to be the change that we will in to be. Yes? Agree? Okay, good. So, I'll read some little snippets. So Daisy, as I said, she is the heroine. She's at university. She is the only vegan there. And if anybody else is the only vegan where they happen to be, you know what that feels like. It's very uncomfortable. It was even worse for me because it was back in the early 70s, and it was 15 years before I met another vegan. Just think on that. So, and Daisy's best friend is called Brian. As they ate their breakfast, Daisy asked whether Brian really thought humanity was evolving. Which way are we going, really? I'm so sick of the arrogant entitlement of people. Maybe we will live to see the post-hominid era when the naked ape lays down his club. Oh, how wonderful, Brian. I love that image. Thank you. Daisy made the motion of peering through a lens and clicking the camera. And the animals reclaim their right to roam the land, free, noble citizens, equal and valued for their share of wisdom. And there was no more killing on the holy mountain, every lake a sacred swimming place, and all the water safe to drink. Let's pretend we're already there, Brian, witnessing the emergence of Homo lucidus, the dawn of humane beings. Some things have to be believed in to be seen. And so they lay on their backs next to one another, with their eyes closed. I see a healing chamber made of crystal, open on 3 sides. It's on the flank of a hill, surrounded by purple heather and bright berry bushes. The sun filters through from above, and a pure stream bubbles up from beneath the earth. Under the chamber is a vast network of caves, whose walls glisten with deep green moss and delicate ferns. Deeper in, there are carpets of fungi between the rocks and limpid pools of mineral-rich water. In the center, there is a hot spring, surrounded by smooth rocks, which pillow your head, so you can drift off to sleep and awaken refreshed. All the vegetation is delicious to taste and restores imbalances. Daisy begins. And it somehow knows when to grow where people most need it, said Brian. There is music, sweet and high, very gentle, like the tinkling of wind chimes or the laughter of fairies in the air, and from within the ground comes a great, deep, reverberating noise which vibrates through the rock. The warm, somehow yielding rock that makes you feel welcome like an old sofa. Daisy stretches and sighs. Together, the friends weave a colourful, multi-dimensional tableau with their minds and imagination. Yet, it feels more like a memory of some long-lost paradise. What if time was in truth not linear at all, but in fact circular or spiraling? Brian introduced her to the fascinating concept that the apparent future was in fact informing and shaping the present, which implied that time was fluid. So, they might be having memories of long, distant, past civilizations, or indeed of future experiences from their current viewpoint. She felt this gave weight to her instantaneous awakenment theory, wherein it need not take eons for society to evolve or transform. It could actually spontaneously occur. For certain, she hoped it would. Paradigm shifting was a reassuring thought. And I still believe that. I still honestly think that people can just wake up like that. You know, I'm sure some people here, it's happened for you. You didn't take you ages. You just suddenly woke up one day and thought, hang on, what is it? You know, no, not in my name. I'm not going to pay the murderers anymore. I'm not going to pay a hitman to do something I daren't do. I don't want that on my conscience. I don't want that blood on my hands. Yeah? I'm sure that other people have felt this way. It came to me very dramatically, actually. I was 14. My parents ran a guest house, and we had 25 guests in the house, and it was always very busy. I was also studying hard at school, and used to have to help my mum and etc. And there I was at the kitchen sink preparing hearts. We were going to have stuffed hearts, stuffing roasted in the oven. I happened to like stuffed hearts because it didn't have the gristle and the fat and the blubber that you got in other dead animal bits that reminded you of what it was. So I was okay with this, stuffed heart at the time. So there I am, washing these stuffed hearts. And then this clot fell out. And I went, and I sort of poked my finger down the aorta of the next one. I had 6 of these hearts. And bleh, another clot fell out, and I went, Mum, and I almost threw up straight on the spot, and I said, I can't do this, and I'm just going like this. And it's suddenly pow! There are 6 people's hearts in my hands here, and they were beating. They were beating with life. They were conscious. These beings were conscious, and now they are dead in my hands. It just went bam! And, I just stood there and shook. And I said to my mother, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this. And she said, oh, for goodness sake, just you go make the custard, So that was how it was for me. It was just slap. And of course from there, it just all poured in. Hopefully, for some of you it was more gentle, and you had friends that were able to say, do you know what, sweetheart? I love you very much, but some of the things you do are a little troubling to me. Yeah? Gently, with love and encouragement. Yeah? I hope so. That's the way I try to treat people, even though I get enraged, of course, and righteously so. Yeah, I try to be loving and gentle and kind, and I try to be as compassionate with my fellow human beings as I would like them to be with me if I was the one still asleep. Yeah? If I hadn't woken up yet. Because I honestly believe we're all going to get it. We're all going to get it. And as I started off by saying, I've been there. And I come back to say, it's okay. You can get there from here. We will get there from here. Vegantopia is real. If you want it, if you choose it, if you affirm it, if you intend it. Yeah. You know it, you feel it. You are it. Vegantopia is us, right? Fantastic, what a privilege. So, another little part I'm going to read. The two vegetarians on Daisy's course were not interested in activism. They saw their vegetarianism as a personal food choice. It did not rule their lives as her veganism was doing to her. They felt they were doing their bit to minimize harm, way more than most folks anyway. Consequently, Daisy felt even more that it was all down to her. It went way beyond personal eating preferences. It was a way of living which touched every aspect of her life, including what she wore, supported, and promoted. Deciding to be proactive, she put up a notice asking for anybody interested in animal rights or veganism to come to a meeting. She planned to suggest that they get together over tea and cakes she would make and write to supermarkets asking them to stock more healthy plant ingredients and to veganize their foods. Most vegetarian things contain eggs and milks, but it would be very simple to replace these, and it would benefit those people with dairy allergies too. They could ask for a separate section for the vegan foods, as she found it unsettling to see them lying side by side with the shrink-wrapped corpses. Maybe some people might even feel brave enough to campaign with her. So arriving early, she'd laid out leaflets and notepads, some muffins and chocolate cake, and nobody turned up. No takers at all. Feeling crushed and disappointed, she went back home, feeling thoroughly disillusioned. It was not enough to be the only vegan in the uni. For her, veganism was actually the least anyone should be doing, the baseline from which humanity ought to be sharing and caring for the one planet all living things had to live on. Not for the first time, she drifted off on the bus home into a reverie of how she imagined the world could be when there was no more killing or fighting and no creature lived in fear. It was a place so idyllically perfect and exquisitely beautiful, she almost fainted. Each butterfly and bird was not merely going about its business, but somehow responsive to her noticing them, with its harmony of symbiosis and togetherness, living magical colors and liquid sounds. Nature vibrated all around her. This was the peaceable kingdom she so desperately longed to see manifest. This was why she had been born, to lead others back to the paradise garden of her visions, restored to original innocence, far from ego and self-conscious struggle. Here, in this alternate reality she retreated to, humans had not used their genius to create weapons of war. There was awesome technology, yes, but none of it harmed the natural world. There were crystal cities and aerial orchards on rooftops. Nature was neither denied, destroyed, or suppressed, but worked with harmoniously to benefit all of life. Following the natural world in its model of perfection, forest gardens proliferated in every walkway. Although many plants were cultivated for their inherent beauty, most of the shrubs, climbers, and trees bore edible fruits and flowers. There was no monoculture of grain fields, but instead, the land outside the living cities was a stunning patchwork of very intricately entwined plant species, making the most of the sunlight and rich, fertile soil. And not only the plants lived companionably here, people lived honest, translucent lives, perspicacious, open, and genuinely sharing with each other. Nobody would dream of stealing or of deceiving another, and defensiveness was not needed because there was no concept of attack. If there ever arose any conflict of interests, these were always settled in a loving, mutually supportive way. It would not serve the peace and delightful array of differences to have any one predominate. So, people would gravitate to the areas which best reflected their own interests and talents. Telepathy was a given here, and people delighted in showing their unique true colours, much like the bright plumage of the winged creatures. Unlike on old 3D Earth, where people, including Daisy, felt they had to shout loud and long to be listened to. In this terra, there was song, yes, but equally there was sweet, serene silence also. Music arose, either spontaneously or by deliberate practiced skill, and always appropriately, sensitively, and purposefully. Vegantopia, she called it, the nirvana, Eden, Shangri-La, or paradise, described by most earthly religions and mythologies. Away with the fairies again, Dazzle. Brian's gentle voice interrupted her reverie, piercing the bubble of the inner sanctum into which she retreated when life hurt her too deeply. Calmer but still subdued and disappointed, Daisy cried on Brian's shoulder. He was, of course, his usual sympathetic self. He knew what she was like, so did not waste time trying to deflect her attention in other directions. She was simply obsessed and passionate about her cause, and the best he could do was console her when she was reduced to depression and tears. It's not that you're the only one who gives a damn, Daisy. It's just that they have so much else in their heads, you know? Yeah, well, so do I. I'd love to be doing more theatre and singing, travelling and cycling, you know? Do you think I want to be spending so much time speaking up for the animals? But if I don't, they won't have anyone on their side. With a display of passion verging on melodrama, Daisy threw herself on the carpet and drummed in frustration. Let it out, Daisy. A good dose of displacement activity really helps. Want to wrestle? And here Brian dropped to the floor near her, posturing in classic warrior mode. Complete with animalistic grunts, chest beating, and ridiculous facial expressions, he bobbed and swayed around her, nudging her with his shoulder and grabbing her with his long gorilla-like arms. It was no good. She couldn't stay somber when he acted like that, despite the seriousness of her feelings. Her inner tigress emerged and she hissed, arched her back and tensed every muscle in warning. The gorilla whooped and leapt up in the air, imaginary club raised. The tigress gave one menacing growl and launched herself, hoping to use the force of her spring to knock the gorilla down. This was playing directly into his hands if she did but know it. This frustrated gorilla had his own agenda, and encouraging the suppressed passion of a tigress might just get him laid. So that's a bit out of my book. Basically, I wrote it because I thought most of the people out there wouldn't dream of reading an animal rights book or even an article. You know, they live in this, we've all had it, haven't we? Oh, don't show me that, no, don't tell me that, because I can't bear it. Yeah, oh, poor sensitive things. And yet we force ourselves to watch graphic, horrendous, soul-shredding stuff to keep us going, you know, active, because we can't let them down. It's up to us. Unfortunately, so far, I had my book launch at Brighton Veg Fest in March this year, and so far, aside from a few friends and family, only kind of animal rights and vegan type people have bought it. which is wonderful, but it's kind of preaching to the converted, yeah? So, it's brilliant if they share it, that's great. But of course, what I really want is for it to get into the mainstream. I've self-published, so it's entirely down to me to promote it, which doesn't come easy, frankly. But I'm doing the best I can, and I'm giving a free ebook to anybody that will give me their email address. I will wing one off to you. I promise I won't use your email address for any other purpose. And I'm writing the sequel now to Holy Cow, which is the next stage of Daisy's life. And I'm also wanting to write a book called VeganTopia. And for that, I need all of you, please, to share with me your visions of what it's going to be like, what it's like for you, what you want to see, what you want to bring into manifestation. Because if any of you know about the power of intention, yeah, it's us that's creating what's happening in the world. So it's all very well that we spend our time talking about the things we don't want in the world, yeah? And of course it's necessary, you know, but for me, it's really been laid on my heart that we have to spend quality time every day just bringing in, focusing on, and giving our will and intention to that which we want to bring in also. It's very important. Doesn't matter how you do it, you know, you meditate, you can pray, you can talk about it, do artwork, music, write about it, whatever. Just spend a little time every day, please. Just kind of thinking, okay, what do I want? What needs, you know, what's it going to be like? Because as you and I know, veganism is the baseline, it's the moral baseline from which everything else is going to occur. And so where can we go as a race of beings, as a species? Wow, you know, what will open up for us once we overcome that whole suppression and domination and power over and all that whole 9 yards, which is crumbling before our very eyes. It is just, it's going to be gone, and it's like, okay, come on, what are we going to play with now? What are we going to do now? Yeah. So I'd like to spend the last amount of our time, please, encouraging you to kind of share with me what it is for you. And if you don't feel up to doing it right now, then please take my email address and just jot some numbers down. Join me on Facebook under my name, Ruth Hall, or I have a group page, VeganTopia. I have a normal page called VeganTopia too. So yeah, just please bombard me with all your thoughts, however wild and wacky, however crazy, however beautiful, however seemingly impossible. I need that, because I don't want it to just be about me and my ideas, you know. I want it to be us as a movement, us as a group. So for my very last few minutes of speaking before I open it up to questions, can I ask you, please, are you willing to just take one another's hands and feel the energy that is this group of us who are willing, open-hearted enough, loving enough, selfless enough, beyond ego enough to be the heralders of the new dawn, to bring this through. It's fine, it's perfect timing. So I just hold everybody in this whole space in an embrace of love, and just know that Gaia is with us, and she's just feeding us, and we're safe in her palm, and that all the powers of the destiny that is approaching are just pouring in, and it's all in divine right order. It's all happening. We really don't need to fret or struggle too much. You know, we think we do, and we just, but actually we just need to kind of just be our whole true selves, and that's it. So Any questions, please? Anybody? No? Yeah.
Discussions about taking it forward. And yes, it always seems to end up, preaching to the converted. And I've tried to be more militant in the art I do or the poetry I do. So, like a gobby little puddly coming at it in pubs and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even that's quite difficult as well. So, and you can never get across, across the country now. There's lots of spoken word festivals, but the kind of being taken over by Daily Telegraph and the Hawe Festival,
Yeah.
the Muchway Rock Festival, there's all these festivals, and it's so hard to break into them, except that if you can get into a slam, and in a slam, there is spoken word and text and bits of people who have obviously written something, and you will get a cross-section of the general public, and they won't know what's coming.
Yeah.
That is one way to get them.
Fantastic. Yeah, I went just to a small one in Southsea. It was a group of people, local writers and poets, and they invited me to just go, and I read some, not those passages, not the kind of overtly, I read them all, a few juicy bits that I thought people might be more interested in, hoping they'd buy my book. But there was, I really, really did try to lighten up the message. And I think I've sort of failed. It's on every page, just about. I can't help it, it's just like a force that's just, it will be heard. It has to come through. And I just say, well, I surrender to it, and ask to get out of my own way and just be the oracle, really, for the poor blessed beings who have no voice. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, I think it's just kind of dinner time, yeah? So, we got enough time? Well, does anybody have any questions? Anyone want to ask me anything? Yes.
You know how you said that it's like a spark when you turn vegan? Yeah. Like you had the heart thing, like you had the spark.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about like people, like I've got friends who used to be vegan and then they've gone back to eating meat again.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how, I just don't understand how it happens.
It's very painful. Very painful, isn't it? It's happened to me too. I think I was having a lovely conversation with this lady earlier on, and we were saying that we just have to love them. You can't hate them and you can't condemn them, It's not easy holding that. It's not easy sometimes for people. Maybe they don't have the strength that you have. Maybe they don't have... what I say, when I do my normal kind of outreach, I will stand up and I'll say, every meal counts. Every meal you don't have meat and dairy and eggs is a life saved, so it all is worthwhile, yeah? And I don't ask anybody to take a vow of perpetual veganism. I say that's for people like me, I'm jocular with them, and I say, it's okay, whatever you're prepared to give, I will gladly take and blow on it and winnow it and encourage it and support you any way I can, right? Just show willing, and it'll just flow, yeah. So I really think that love is the way, it's the answer. Because if you use the guilt card, if you make people feel bad, they may change for a while. It's like in relationships. I've had relationships where people have been vegan because they knew that if they weren't, they wouldn't be able to get in my pants, you know what I mean? And then the minute you're out of the relationship, the father of my child, she went to see him in Australia, and he was eating pork pies. And she rang me up, sobbing in tears. It cut her to the quick that her father was eating pork pies. I didn't know what to say. I said, well, all I know is he wasn't when he was with me, and when you were conceived, he was not. That's all I could say. But this is why you never give up on people. That was 11 years ago, and he is now a very powerful activist for the whales and helping the Sea Shepherd Foundation and various other parts of the movement in Australia. So, you know, just, yeah. It's not for us to judge. And it's not our responsibility, you know. Once we've put the message out there, then you can just go, well, I've done my bit. It's up to them. You've sowed the seeds. I mean, I've sowed seeds in friends of mine 30 years ago. Yeah? And this friend has just recently come back to me and said, oh, Ruth, how are you? I want to see you. And I'm like, okay, John, you can see me. Meet me in London next week. I'm doing some leafleting for Animal Aid. Thinking he'd go, oh, no, it's fine. And he turned up. And I was like, oh, okay, this is good. And it was really amazing because he just threw himself into it. And he was like a duck to water. And afterwards, he was all like sparkling. He's like, wow, he said, I feel I've come to life. He said, I need you to teach me. I want to do this. I want to be part of it. I want to be with you. I want to do this, you know? And I'd like washed my hands of this person and given up on him because he wouldn't embrace what was so vital in my life. I'm like, no, sorry. You don't get past, you know. So please don't ever give up on anybody. I'm going to be 60 next year. And people like that, still, yeah. Right at the last minute, you know, I mean, there's some wonderful people, aren't there, in the movement who used to be, God help us, slaughterhouse workers, yeah? Just like poachers, gamekeepers, you know, from poachers or whatever. So don't ever despair. Don't give in to despair. I know we all do, we all get depressed, yeah, but you just got to kind of haul yourself up and cry out. That's why Facebook and things are so good. You can just have a rant on there and you just go, you know. I mean, I was in a demo in Brighton last year where we'd been told by the police we had to walk in the middle of the road and not kind of go to the sides, and we were policing ourselves. So I was one with a fluorescent jacket, having to keep people in the middle of the road. There's about 2,000 of us, I think. And we're all doing really well, being very polite, being kind people, and then all of a sudden we got to Macbeth. And something happened. The people in the front, they suddenly turned and they raced to the front of the shop, and they're looking in like this at the people corpse munching inside with their children. And this cry started to come up, murderers! Murderers! And we started shouting and screaming, murderers! And it was coming out of me. 40 years of suppressed rage came out of me, and I'm like, nah! Along with the mob. And then a part of me was going, Ruth. And part of me was like, what's it like to be sitting in there with my children, looking at these maniacs screaming? What the hell, what's wrong with these people? What's going on? I'm just sitting here having my food, like everyone does. What are they nutters? And your kids are going, Mummy, what's happening? Yeah? So I'm like, okay, you know, yes, it has its place Showing our rage has its place. Firing bullets, using words as swords has its place. Words are very powerful. Words are very powerful. Use them. But use them with discretion. Use them always based in love, in compassion for one another. It's no good going into hate. You're just adding more hate to the world, aren't you? You're hating on people. What good is that doing? It's really not. It might make you feel a bit better for a while. Make you feel a bit superior. But that's not really where we're going. It's not really what the world needs, in my opinion anyway. So I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity to be here and for you all here, you wonderful vegan people, and I just love you all and say thank you so much from my heart to yours and out into the world. God bless you all. Thank you.